Well, holy shit. I actually managed to do it. After procrastinating for ages, I finally managed to produce an audiobook version of the Lunatic Fringe book. It's currently available on all Amazon sites, audible.com, and shortly on iTunes. And if you're the page turning type, it's also, of course, still available in Kindle form, paperback, and hardback on Amazon. 10 hours and 10 years worth of Blue Skies Magazine's articles, all available to you right fucking now, including a few author's notes and even an apology or two. Enjoy.
Blue skies call. They seduce us, pulling us irresistibly upwards, reminding us to fly our own line, on our wings, and in life. We are the seekers, adventurers, being one with the air, feeling everything and nothing at once. That's the magic we chase. Follow the call. Find your pure, wild flight with NZ Aerosports.
Of course, I absolutely love the NZ Aerosports business model. I mean, come on. One glance at an Icarus fuck yeah sticker and you know it lines up perfectly with the fucking pilot mentality. But outside their wonderful use of colorful language and a great company vibe, there's a long list of reasons to say NZ Aerosports fuck yeah. NZ Aerosports blows me away right out of the gate as a canopy manufacturer with a bold offer. They give you 10 jumps on your brand new nylon to decide if you want to keep it, swap it out, or even return it for a refund. I mean, seriously, how incredible is that? That's like getting halfway through a prom and deciding you prefer the slightly racier date that goes down faster. Seriously, they do that. If you're not madly in love with your new canopy after 10 jumps, they'll let you swap it out for another size or model, or even get your money back. And the range of canopies they've got? Man, they've got a style canopy to fit every jumper and every situation with models you know and trust. Like the Sapphire 3, the perfect choice for the beginner or intermediate canopy pilot. The Crossfire 3, when you're ready to kick it up that elliptical notch. The JFX 2, if you're looking to up your new swoop game. The Leia as the workhorse and dirtwater dirt beast. Or the Petra. The Petra cranks out crazy power and is nothing short of a record breaker. But hey, it's not always about speed either. Take the Kraken. Built as a low pack volume canopy specifically with wingsuiting in mind, she gives you all the performance you're looking for with the reliability you need that'll have you itching for that next formation, rodeo, or puffy cloud. So, the equipment is top-of-the-line kick-ass stuff as you already know, but how about the team? Well, the customer service gang is there to sort you out whenever you need them. Maddie and Beto are always there to help with Jen holding the reins. They're available for you at sales@nzaerosports.com, and they've got a kick-ass live chat tool on the website if you're wanting to hit someone up right away. These are the crew you're going to want to talk to get those custom orders in. With the stock nylon, once you know what you want, they'll have that shit on a FedEx truck as soon as the credit card machine says approved and get you in the air in no time. For your custom orders, you'll be able to get a time frame for building and shipping when you design it, so get to it. And demos. They've got demos in the US available from their partner Rock Sky Market. The whole US demo fleet is there with Sapphire 3, Crossfire 3, Kraken, JFX2, and Leia canopies in a range of sizes. They also offer student and tandem demos in the US. Bottom line, every step of the way, NZ Aerosports is there to get you what you need, and I personally couldn't be happier to be teamed up with them here on Lunatic Fringe. And now, time to get started with Lunatic Fringe Into the Void, brought to you proudly by NZ Aerosports. Fuck yeah.
Coming straight from the cockpit, it's another episode of Lunatic Fringe with the fucking pilot.
Ready, set, go. Back in the can with another edition of Lunatic Fringe Into the Void. And again, the magic of the internet. Please, let's just get to it. Tell me, who the fuck are you and what do you do?
Hey, my name is Max Manow. I'm a member of the RedBull Skydiving Team. I'm affiliated with a couple of other groups. I do flocking camps with Momentum. I'm a competitive swooper, full-time skydiver, and That's it.
So you're a pretty fucking busy guy.
I am very busy. Yes.
I mean, I'll tell you what, I know how much you love it just because the last time we were going to sit down and talk, I got an apologetic message from you about an hour and a half before going, dude, the weather's way too nice, man. We got to do this some other time because I'm going to go jump.
Yeah, I think I went and did a couple of base jumps in Lauterbrunnen. I live in Switzerland,
Nice.
and whenever the weather is good and I have time, I'll try to make the most of it.
You know, it's kind of funny. That's the one excuse that I can't ever give a jumper shit for. Like, dude, I'm not going to sit and talk to you. I'm going to go fucking jump.
Priorities, right?
Yeah, man, that's the best answer ever. And occasionally you'll get people who give you a whole bunch of stuff, but just say you're going to go jump. I'm all good with that. So look, so the way we do things on the podcast is I want to jump all the way back to how you got started on doing this, because obviously if you've made it all the way up to the Red Bull team and everything else that you're doing, you've got a little bit of talent, but it had to start somewhere. So where did extreme sports and then of course specifically jumping start for you?
Man, many years ago, over half of my lifetime ago, I got a tandem skydive from my mom for my 14th birthday.
Wow.
And I did the jump. I honestly don't remember much. I remember feeling sick in the car on the way back and throwing up at home. But I guess it was a bit of an overwhelming experience, and it made me kind of, I don't know. I just wanted to know what it was all about. And then for my next birthday, my mom gave me like an introductory course, static line at that time. And I did those 3 static line jumps. And then the school asked me if I want to continue. And I think I did another 2 jumps or something that day. And then that was it. From then on, I just tried to be at the drop zone as often as I could. And obviously, since I was really young and I had a lot of other things on my agenda, I didn't really make it a priority at that time. But when I was 16, I got my skydiving license. And then after that, I basically tried to invest every single penny I had into the sport. And then it really, when I was 18, 19, when I finished school, I had about 200 jumps, and I was trying to figure out what to study and what to do and all of that. And then I decided to go and travel to Australia for 3 months. That was the plan. And then I ran out of money really, really quick. So I had to find a job, and I called the nearest drop zone. And they basically asked me, or they basically told me that they don't really have work for me, but I could come and hang out for a bit. And then that basically started my professional career, I guess. Starting.
Now, starting in Europe, obviously it had to be Europe to be able to start that young, but 14 years old is really young to make that first jump. I mean, especially if you said you were sick to your stomach on the way home. I mean, could it have gone either way? Could you have gotten home and gone, fuck, I wish I hadn't done that? That was scary.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it was also the first time I've been in a plane. So I was exposed to a lot of new things, and I remember the tandem instructor at that time. He explained the equipment to me, and then he was like, "Oh, there, and also if everything goes wrong, we still have a reserve canopy." And I was like, "Wow, this is really safe. I thought we were gonna have a round parachute. We have one chance, And I would have I signed up for it. I was in, but. Finding out that there was a lot better equipment than I expected and all of that made me really curious. And for sure, it was really young. I think like now when I get asked like, oh, my son's or my daughter's 14 or 15, what's a good time to start? I recommend not to start that early, because it's kind of just, it's a lot for a young human like that, I think. And looking back, I'm really glad I did it. But I also think that it wouldn't have hurt to start a little bit later.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I did tandems for a while in New Zealand that doesn't have an age limit. It's literally just if you can fit in the harness safely, you can make a jump. And I've taken as young as an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old. And the 8-year-old, I think, would have rather just stayed on the dirt playing with his Hot Wheels. And didn't really seem to be affected by the jump one way or the other. The 12-year-old, I'm pretty sure I scarred her for life. She was horrified. Horrified. And I felt bad about it because I'm like, well, shit, your parents are paying and they're insisting that you're going, so I'm going to take you and make it a safe skydive. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I fucked that kid up.
Man, it's overwhelming. And honestly, I think the best or the worst thing about it is you set the bar really high as for experiences. So I think every roller coaster after that's just going to be super boring,
Right?
And so you're kind of like, I think it's not a good idea if you have a child, you want to take them skydiving, wait as long as possible, because after that you're just going to have to come up with something better than a skydive, which is pretty difficult in my eyes.
Yeah, it's pretty tough to do. Now, you said it was a gift from your mom. Was she or anybody else in the family a jumper?
No, not at all, man. Actually, when we went to the drop zone, I realized it was like 20 minutes from my house, and I must have heard and seen them before, but I didn't. So it was a really small, like a 182 Cessna drop zone in the south of Germany. They have a big military base there, but they have also a civilian club. And yeah, no, I didn't know anything about skydiving, to be honest. No idea.
Now, did your mom have any idea as you got into it what she started? I mean, did your mom ever go, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't have done that?
Man, actually, it's funny. Like a couple of years later, I talked to her about, obviously what happened and where that journey took me. And then she was like, she just knew at that time she had to direct my energy towards something good. Like she said, like, you had a lot of energy and I needed to make sure it goes towards something useful or something that is good for you, And so now she doesn't really know a lot about what I do. Like I send her messages from time to time. Usually when I stand on top of the mountain just before I jump, I send her a quick message and I think she's just happy that I'm happy and she comes and watches competitions if they're close to where she lives, and I think she's just really happy that it worked out for me.
Nice. So you were one of those kids. She was like, shit, I better find something for this kid to do or we're in for a long road.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
That's awesome. So had there ever been any other thought that skydiving was going to basically be your life? I mean, I know you said you were jumping quite young, but were there other interests that might have taken you different directions, or was it pretty much shit, this is it?
Man, honestly, I never really thought about it. Like it just kind of like happened to me in a way. Like obviously I made myself available to a lot of the jobs and places I went to and all of that, but I never really like the instructors were gods, when I was a young skydiver. I was like, man, it's just impossible to ever acquire 1,000 jumps, or you know what I mean? They travel around the world and all these things. Like for me, it was just impossible to compare myself to them, even,
sure.
And it kind of like stayed like that for a really long time. Like I remember getting my instructor rating and go like, how the fuck did I get here? It's
Yep.
really crazy. I was really fortunate to have a lot of people that kind of like helped me get to where I was, but it was never something that I even like thought I could become,
Sure.
It really just happened.
Well, now, when you went to Australia, you said, I mean, as an American, most American kids don't travel all that much. The lucky ones do, but not like European kids absolutely take these trips and they go live other places for extended periods of time. So you didn't go to Australia looking to jump, did you?
No, not really. I had a rig at that time. Like I said, I was a really young and inexperienced jumper. And I thought it'd be nice to do a jump or two while I'm there, but I never really planned to, like, I had no idea. I didn't know like what a big drop zone looks like. You know what I mean? Like I was just, I'm gonna take my rig and see what happens. And then
Sure.
I never packed for anyone else either. Like when they asked me to do a pack job for them, I remember it was like a JVX 94 or something at that time. And I never held a wing like that in my hands. You know, I was like, what is this? Like, what am I going to do with this? Like, I can barely pack my own parachute. And yeah, and then it kind of just started there. I totally green and just try my best.
So they hired you on as a packer because you showed up and had no money and nowhere else to go?
Pretty much. Nah, honestly, they just offered me a place to stay. And they're like, man, we're not really busy. Like, there's not really a job position open for you, but whatever you can do is probably helpful. So I started like emptying the bins and answering the phone and cleaning up the kitchen. And then finally it was packing. I remember you needed, like in Australia, you need a commercial packing license. So I had to get that first. And then it was sort of like every kind of work that was there, like doing, like, I don't know, cleaning up the garden for my boss at that time and
Sure.
things like that. Just trying to have a bit of money to eat. And then over the years that became a bit more professional, like editing videos and then camera flying. And then I finally got my instructor rating and I started doing AFF and tandem.
So is that kind of the point where the switch flipped and you realized you're not just doing this to get by while you're figuring out what's going on, but this is your path?
Yeah, in a way, yes. Yes or no, man. I had doubts for many years after I got my instructor rating too. I always thought like, am I like the scuba instructor in Thailand that sort of like thought he has a job and then realizes when he's like in his mid 40s that he kind of, fucked up or something, like, I don't know. Like I was always like, do I have to, is this a real job? Can I get by with this?
Sure.
Or do I have to go back to university and get like a real job? For many, many years. And every time it was like tough in the sport, I kind of reconsidered or I just considered doing something else or.
Sure. Well, I'm sure you got the same thing that I and a lot of professional skydivers got, especially back in the day, was, wait, you can make money doing that? Nobody could wrap their head around the fact that you could actually do it as a job. And I, a lot like you, when I became an instructor, assumed that at some point everybody would figure out that I was a complete fraud and had no business doing what I was doing. Like, half of the time I'm more scared than my fucking students were, but somehow I kept getting through it. And it took a long time before I woke up and went, oh shit, I think I'm a skydiving instructor.
Yeah. It was, I think when I, like even in the beginning, when I was a young instructor, I never really made up a lot of money. It was kind of like, and all the money that I made went back into the sport or into buying equipment and all of that. So it was always like, man, I was broke for many, many years. So, but then in my last year in Australia, I started working for another job zone. It was like what we consider a tandem factory. And then after the first week or the first 2 weeks, I wrote them my first invoice. And then I was like, all right, this is serious money. Like, this is a good job. I like doing it. And I think I'm just going to do that until I get bored or until I want to do something else.
That was a few years ago now, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that was it's like 13 years now or something, 12 years. Yeah, a long time ago.
It's crazy how fast it gets behind you, isn't it? I mean, same thing with me. I look back now at a 27-year career in the sport, and I can't imagine where it's gone. Now, I also didn't go the route that you've done. I mean, we've, at the beginning of the podcast, talked about some pretty epic shit. I mean, as soon as you say Team Red Bull, that's saying something. I mean, when did you decide, you know, something, this is not just an instructor tandem kind of thing for me. I've got other aspirations in the sport.
Honestly, it was always like that. Like I always saw, like, when a couple of friends that I started with, for example, like somewhere along the way, they found like a job in the industry. Like, I don't know, they got their tandem rating and then got a decent job that paid well. And then a lot of them kind of like stayed in those positions. And I remember going, it was also in Australia. I did my first swoop competition. I went down to Picton, I think it was like an intermediate swoop competition. I never had done any training or anything like that. And I just thought, like, this is really interesting. And I remember going there and basically spending all the money that I had saved up at that point for training and like a bit of equipment that I needed, and then the competition, obviously, and the flights and all of that. And I remember coming home and a couple of my friends were like, man, you missed like a really busy weekend. Like, we made a bunch of money. There was like this big group, blah, blah, blah. You know what it's like, you know? And I was
Sure.
like, in a way, I felt like, damn it. Like, obviously, I missed out on a bunch of money, but I was really, really stoked having gone to that swoop competition and learning a lot and doing something for myself. And I think at that time, I sort of promised myself, like, I'm gonna put a lot of money back into the sport to kind of get as good as possible in as many disciplines as I possibly can. And I just always did that, like wingsuiting and free flying and all of that. Like, it in the beginning, obviously it doesn't pay the bills, but it was always important to not just be an instructor to me.
Sure. Well, and that's kind of the decision that has to be made, right? I mean, because I've talked to, you know, the world's best swoopers and the world's best wingsuit pilots. And at the end of the day, it's not the fat paycheck that they're doing it for. You know, you talk to Nick Batch and you ask him, so how's all those millions coming for standing on top of the podium? And of course, you just get a laugh.
Yeah.
You guys do it primarily for the passion and the love of it. But it does have to be that choice, because you guys know going into it, this is not an Olympic medal sport, at least not yet. So you have to make that decision. Fuck, this is just what I want to do, which says something. It really does.
Man, it's just, I don't know, like, it's just having fun, really, at the end of the day. And I guess, like, when you start as a student, I think it's so cool how many new things you learn in a really short period of time, and how you kind of like, I guess it might be a bit over the top, but how you kind of like become a better, stronger person, right? Like, you deal with your fears a bit more. You I don't know, you sleep, you dream of skydiving, you breathe skydiving. Like, everything you do is just towards that one goal. And
Sure.
I think every time in my life where that stopped, because I was kind of caught up doing the same thing over and over, I kind of just got a bit like bored and frustrated and thought, like, man, this can't be it. Like, I got into the sport because of the fascination for new things, and I never wanted to stop. So I was always looking for something that kept me busy and made me a student, basically.
Sure. Sure. Well, now, so skydiving, it did the same thing for me as well. I mean, it makes you face a level of fear and concentration that most people can't even wrap their heads around. And as a beginning skydiver and even an experienced skydiver, we have to deal with stressful situations that most average people could never conceive of. But it does become the norm. But do you think it's that type of thing that funneled you towards what skydivers consider more the cutting edge of the sport for you? The wingsuiting, the canopy piloting, that kind of stuff? Was it to keep it fresh?
I think so. Like, obviously, just getting into another discipline was just interesting to kind of just have a look, like, see what it's like, what the scene is like, what the focus is about, and all of that. But then I guess, like, in each discipline, like, you do it more often, you kind of just want to get better, and then it sort of naturally takes you to like, to the extreme end, I guess.
Sure.
And I think it was always like, man, for me, it was always like looking up to the people. I remember watching the first like base jumping, wingsuit base jump videos, you know, and I was like, man, this is impossible. Like, how can people do this? You know, I'll never be able to do this, but this is a different world. Like, they're
Sure.
people from a different planet, and I was so fascinated by that. And then you get to these goals, like remembering, like, oh man, like now I have more jumps than my instructor had when he taught my first jump course, or you know what I mean, things like
Yeah.
that. And I was like, man, it's really really incredible that without having this as a goal, it kind of just took me there, and it just made me want to do it more and more. And I think I just never wanted to stop, and I still don't want to stop.
Sure. Well, the cool thing too about both the sport of skydiving and a subset being base jumping is you end up becoming friends with the people that you had hero worship for in the beginning, right? I mean, how many times have you found yourself on a plane or at an exit point with someone that you used to, look up to, and still do, of course, but now they're your friend?
Yeah, it's incredible, man. In the beginning, I would get stuff. I remember, for example, with competition, I remember competing against Cornelia in the Italian nationals a couple of years ago, maybe 5, 6 years ago or something. And at that time, I trained a lot, and I was really, really focused on competition. And then I went there, and Cornelia for me was like, the one and only, like, just an amazing canopy pilot and person, obviously, also. And it was like the last round, and she had done her last jump already, and I realized, like, if I did like an average round, I have a chance to beat her in that competition in the Italian nationals. And I got so nervous. I was like, this is impossible. There was like a weather hold, and for 2 or 3 hours, all that went through my mind was like, oh my God, it's Cornelia. Like, how can I possibly, like, it's impossible. Like, what am I doing? Just going crazy and crazy. And I ended up totally cooking the round, like totally fucked up, and like did a shitty score, and she took the win. But I remember being like, man, something has really changed, like the to compete against the people that I look up to is such a incredible feeling, and it's something I definitely wasn't prepared for mentally either.
Sure. Well, and I mean, not to just compete with them, but then to find yourself sitting around having a beer and shooting the shit with these people that you idolize their abilities and what they do. I mean, I've been lucky enough to have Cornelia in the studio a number of times, and have joked a number of times about when she once tried to teach me how to do a 450, and I made it halfway around and was so dizzy I bailed out, and she just laughed at me. She's like, just go away. Like, I'm going to stick with my 270s. I'm good. That 450 shit and above is just too much for me. And then you're watching her and all these other amazing people taking podium after podium and realizing they're badasses because of how hard they dedicate themselves, but they're also just fucking great people.
Yeah, man, I think almost like one doesn't go without the other, like, I think you to get in the sport far, I think, like, to be a bit humble and open, and to actually spend that time on the ground having a beer with someone else, and talking about skydiving outside of the actual sport, is like, I would say like 80% of all my knowledge I learned when the plane was on the ground, so
Sure.
I think like those times are really, really important, and I learned a lot about like attitudes and how people, how serious they take it, and all of that. And I think like without that, I definitely wouldn't be where I am now.
I mean, I think there's absolutely no doubt that to reach the levels that somebody like Cornelia reaches, you had to have had some situations that have humbled you. And if you haven't, then you're not performing at your best, because that humility is also what helps to keep you safe and help pass that knowledge on to other people. I mean, you just can't, this sport doesn't take not being humble for very long before you get smacked.
No, exactly. And man, at the end of the day, like I think about it this way, like I try to be like you try to be the instructor that you never had, right? Like if you, whatever you do in the sport, like the ultimate goal is that the generation after you will outperform you more or less.
Yes.
Like it's the whole idea of the sport is, of course, why you're competing. It's sort of like if you have your one that works really well, like you kind of don't want to give it away. But at the end of the day, like as an instructor or whatever, I think like the ultimate goal is that the students I teach one day will outperform me, and for that, it's like a circle, right? They're gonna do the same thing, and the instructors I looked up to, they did the same thing. So in the end, it's all like taking while you're doing your thing, but also giving a lot, so the next generation can become safer and better and have more fun, basically.
Well, sure. And I mean, another thing that I think is fueling that big time is technology seems to be moving at such a high rate of speed these days. I mean, it seems to me like yesterday, the first time I saw a video of Patrick flying a wingsuit, and that wingsuit and today's modern wingsuits are not even the same thing. But
Yeah.
it seems like it happened in the blink of an eye. And it's the same thing with parachutes. I mean, when I started jumping, the baddest thing in the sky was a stiletto. Holy shit, you got to be crazy to jump a stiletto. You're out of your mind. And then of course it was the velocity, and now both of those are kind of like the introduction to to parachutes. It's crazy how quick it's gone. Well, and I'm sure you've seen it quite a bit too, especially doing the kind of things that you do. Because I mean, you got into wingsuiting quite heavily, and then the base jumping side of things. Again, technology has really taken over, hasn't it?
Man, for sure. Man, when I had like my 220 jumps or something, when I was like, I just qualified for doing my first wingsuit flight. I did, and I was jumping like a Birdman Classic or something, you know, like today we consider them, they're like a rail suit with camera wings, you know, it's like really far
Right.
from what a wingsuit is today. And then we did a couple of jumps, and at that time the wingsuiting thing started off, like Birdman was still a thing, and then I had like the vampires and things like that. And then that's when I saw like the first wingsuit base jumping videos, and I thought like, man, this is just incredible.
Yep.
And then many years later, when I joined the RedBull Skydiving Team, they're like, man, we wingsuit a lot, so you kind of have to get back into wingsuiting. And I still had this image of like these, you know, like I remember what it was like flying a wingsuit, but then they put me in a freak, like on the second jump or something. I was like, all right, this is a wingsuit. Like this thing actually is like a wing. It was incredible to just see the difference, and it wasn't that many years in between, and man, it's changed a lot. Like all of the exits now that everyone looked at, and I was like, this is not an exit. I'm now like safe-ish exits on the big good suits. You know, it's incredible.
It really is. I mean, again, I'm not a base jumper. I'm not a wingsuiter. So for me, it's all an outside perspective. But watching the evolution of it in the YouTube generation that it's become, and then, of course, becoming friends with and working with all the guys that are just on the cutting edge of this shit, I'm constantly blown away when I watch an exit that just doesn't look possible. It doesn't look possible. The shit that's going on and the level of flying now that is happening while on these jumps is just above and beyond anything I would have ever imagined.
Yeah, man, it's really, really cool. And yeah, like you said, with canopies, the same thing. Like, you know, doing, I don't know, people jumping. I think Nick is jumping a 55 now for speed and in competition, 55 Petra. Then the mutant harness, obviously. Like it's just changed so much. It's incredible.
Yeah, I just had Chris Stewart on from NZ Aerosports talking about a lot of the innovations, and of course he being a test jumper and being on the front line for a lot of that stuff, and even he is just blown away with the progression that's happened with everything all around the sport, you know. So if you were forced to, well, first off, I want to know how did the RedBull Skydiving Team come about for you? Because that's a pretty coveted spot.
Yeah, man, I don't really know. Like I get asked that question a lot, like how did you do it or how does it work? I think I was it's a little bit like being at the right time in the right place. Like I sort of just had moved back from Australia to Europe just to be at home again and kind of like see if the whole skydiving thing will work at home also. And then I went on holidays, skydiving holidays with an old friend of mine, with Dominic, who used to be part of the team back then. And I remember us talking about, like, basically I asked him, like, what do you even do for your job? Like, I don't even know how do you get paid, or how does it work? And that's like the first time I kind of like got in touch with, or got to see a little bit of how the RedBull Skydive team works. And we're just hanging out together, and that was it. And then like half a year later, he called me. He's like, hey man, you want to come and train with us this winter? And we went to Dubai to do a training camp there. And I was like, yeah, sure, man. Like, it sounds really nice. And I think that was it. Then maybe another couple of months after that, they asked me if I want to join. And I had just found a really nice job in Switzerland at a drop zone, the one I'm at now, Skydive Lucerne. And I was really happy there. And I was like, man, I just committed to a full season. I can't really like tell them that I'm leaving now. So in the first year, I was like, I told the team, like, if it's okay, I'll do like a bit of freelance, and I'll kind of just have a look at it and see what it's like, what you guys do. Because I had no idea, you know. And I just wanted to jump a lot and do a lot of exciting stuff. And then really quickly I found out, like, yes, this is really, really nice. And I consider myself very, very, not lucky, but I'm very grateful for having had this opportunity, or still having this opportunity.
Sure. I mean, I think by the time you reach the level where you're being offered a slot on the RedBull team, luck is no longer a factor. Maybe you had the good graces to know the right people, but you're not offered a slot if you don't have the skill to be able to keep up. So at that point, I don't think it's luck anymore.
No, not luck. Like, I don't know. Like I said, like the right time and the right place, but obviously I made myself available by being who I am.
Sure.
Like, I think it's obviously, I guess in a team, you need a team player. And someone who has a knowledge in it. Like we try to do cover as many disciplines as possible. So that definitely helped me, that I was always curious and try to do as many things in the sport as possible.
Sure.
And then I guess, but also obviously that I speak German, the whole team is based in Austria, so that helps, and the age and all of that. So that's where I kind of see, like, I wouldn't really, I guess it's a lucky component also, but obviously
sure.
I know that I worked really hard to get to the place where I was. Yeah.
Sure. Well, now I've been lucky enough to fly a lot of the RedBull team stuff when they were training in Dubai, and flying Vince and Fred and all the gang, doing all these different things. But from an outside perspective, which I have, it just looks like you guys are getting paid to have fun. So to put it bluntly, what the fuck do you guys do other than just go out and do cool shit?
Man, I mean, at the end of the day, we get paid for doing what we do, and we do what we do because we love it. So we have a lot of fun, you know. So it is like that. I guess I guess there are other sponsors too that go like, man, what you do is incredible, and you're having fun doing it is awesome, and I want to support it. But specifically us, the Skydive team, we do mostly show jobs. We do a bunch of shows for RedBull Austria, so we have the Formula One, MotoGP, things like that, a couple of smaller events also, and that's sort of our how we make a living. And then outside of that, we try to stay as busy as possible, becoming better pilots also, right? So, or better skydivers. So I guess, like, I would say that still 100% of my time is dedicated to skydiving, even if it's my free time, you know what I mean? Like, I try to go as much as possible.
Now, a lot of the stuff that we see when we're, clicking on YouTube and seeing these RedBull stunts that are being pulled off, Is this stuff that you guys will come up with an idea? Hey, the team is thinking about this, or individuals of the team are thinking about that, and then Red Bull gives a green light for you to go ahead and try something?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, obviously, it's really, I guess, for a lot of the people at RedBull, it's difficult to see like what's possible or what isn't. But usually we come up with a couple of ideas, and then we kind of do a bunch of brainstorming and see how that would work, and what elements they would like to emphasize on, and what we like to do. And it's usually trying to cover a couple of things, like making sure it's from an athletic point of view, it's good, and for someone who's probably not a skydiver, that would still enjoy it. So it's always like a bit of a process to get to a concrete idea, and then we just try to put it into practice and see where it takes us.
Nice. Now, outside the Red Bull team, are you still doing? Are you coaching? Are you instructing? I know you said you're in Bovec now, getting ready to do a camp. So, what does all that kind of stuff involve?
Yes, I do. I try to do everything actually. Actually, from now I'm here with the Momentum Group. It's a company or a team that Tom Baker and Matt Leonard and myself founded a couple of years ago, trying to make high performance canopy flocking a thing. We did a little bit ourselves, and then we thought, like, man, maybe there's like a camp format, a boogie format, so canopy flocking becomes a thing. Just like if you rock up to a boogie, you want to do belly flying, you want to do free flying, you want to do canopy flocking, it's all there. And then we kind of like did the first event and just tried to figure out if that could work, and it took off. It got really big really quick, and now it's the 4th year, I think, already, or the 5th year. And this is our first mountain flying / canopy flocking event in Bovec.
Wow. And Bovec, if I'm not mistaken, is becoming quite well known for the mountain flying.
Man, it is incredible here. Like, the drop zone is located in a very beautiful valley surrounded by perfect mountains to do mountain flying or paragliding or whatever. It's like a little adventure sports valley. And the drop zone caters for mountain flying quite well. Like, they have pickup trucks and things like that to bring people back. And a couple of the lines in the mountains are well known already, so it's quite easy to make that happen. And it's a really nice spot for it.
Well, and it draws a lot of the best as well because of its area, right? I mean, it's not very far away from a lot of very popular base jumping spots as well, correct?
Yeah, there is. Man, here in Bovec, like, there is a couple of base exits. It's really good for speed flying, for paragliding. Like, I call it Little Norway. Like, it's got all the things that that you want with mountains, but really accessible also. And it's perfect for having this camp here for sure.
Awesome. Well, while you're there, you're going to have to make sure and find Nitka, the guy that's running the place, and tell him I called him a fucking asshole and that he has no idea how to spot an airplane.
I will. I promise.
Tell him Princess said that, and he'll laugh his ass off. He might slap you, but it's meant for me.
That's okay. I'll take it. I'll pass it on when I get the chance.
So what other big events are coming up? What should people be looking for to follow what's going on, not just with Red Bull, but with you personally? And they've listened to us talking, so they want to know what you've got going on in regard to coaching and all that kind of stuff. How do they find you? What do you got coming next?
Man, it's a good question. I'm trying to do my best on social media. No, my Instagram for sure, at Max_Manow. Then there is the RedBull Skydiving Team at RedBull Skydiving Team. For the Momentum stuff, we have a website that we just launched. It's momentumflight.com. And that's it. If you want coaching with me, hit me up. I run a bunch of canopy courses in Switzerland, like one course a month at least. And I kind of tour around doing canopy courses as well, and canopy watching. You will probably find me at a couple of free fly boogies as an all-rounder, and that's it. Just trying to be busy and doing as much as possible. For me, the next couple of events, for sure, the next big one, well, after this camp, the next big one will be Arizona Eloy World Championships for canopy piloting. And then after that, we'll have 2 flocking camps in North Carolina at Skydive XP. And there are still slots available. So look us up if you're interested. We have one group or one camp that is catered for a little bit bigger wings. Sort of like your maybe sub 100, around that size. And then the other one is like the small parachutes, like wing loading 2.6 and a little bit smaller, like Valkyries and all of that around the whatever that wing load. Anyways, you'll find all the information online or hit me up personally, and then come to one of our camps. It's really, really good fun, and you'll learn a lot.
Awesome. I love that you start out by saying the just sub 100 big slow canopies.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're catering for high performance flocking.
I mean,
no, we have a
it makes
I understand.
makes me feel old. Now, I especially with a lot of the people that I've been able to talk to over recent years do a lot of what you do, which is multitasking in so many different areas. And obviously with social media being what it is, and the press grabbing onto the most spectacular sides of our sport, that being the mountain flying, especially the wingsuit base jumping and all that stuff. I've got a lot of people that listen to the podcast that are very new into skydiving. And for those people that have been watching YouTube and think it's the most amazing thing ever, and that's the only direction they want to go, what's your advice on how to take it? This is the guy with 200 jumps that thinks he's ready to go, strap on a freak and try and carve down the mountain. What path should he be thinking of?
Man, he should be thinking about the path. Like, I think if you just have a goal in sight, then 2 things happen. You don't really enjoy the journey on the way there, and once you get there, you'll probably be like, what are you gonna do after that? You know what I mean? Like, if this is your only goal, then you achieved it. So you're gonna stop doing it then? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I think like every single step in between was like so much fun and was like such a cool challenge. And I really enjoyed every single step. There are difficult times, and there are times where you feel like you're not progressing enough, or you want to like speed things up, but it's all there for a reason, and there are no shortcuts. So you might as well like enjoy it as much as possible and celebrate the small achievements, which end up being like a massive achievement anyway, right?
Sure.
And honestly, like for me, I'm the same. Like, it's not like I have more fun on a skydive than someone with less jumps. It's all the same. Like, you enjoy every single jump, enjoy every single step. It's like, and it never stops. I certainly don't consider myself at the top of anything, because it's sort of just starting all over,
Sure.
So I think like it's a bit of a cliche, but enjoy the journey and like celebrate every single step in between, and then wherever it takes you. And I think not focusing too much on a goal is probably
Sure.
the right thing to do.
Well, and it's kind of funny. I think with skydiving, especially the peak, the summit of skydiving keeps getting higher. I mean, it's not static, simply because of technology and because of people's abilities have increased so much over the years. I had the privilege of having Nick Scalabrino and Matt Munting a number of times on the podcast, and both of them said that their wingsuiting improved dramatically because of all of the other avenues that they were following in the sport, that being free flying, and literally everything else was adding to their ability to do these specific things, and they had just as much fun doing one as the other. So I think that's fantastic advice. Man,
it's all connected. It's all basically the same thing, right? We're getting out of an airplane or we're exiting from somewhere and we're getting to the ground. And there's so many things we have that we can definitely improve on a lot, and technology will make it interesting all the time. And there's so many disciplines that are for sure super fun. And if you're bored with something, then get into competition and then become an instructor so you can pass on your knowledge. Like, if you feel like you kind of like don't know what to do anymore in the sport because you've done it all, you probably, I don't know, there's something wrong.
Right. Well, and if you're lucky enough to be somebody like me who doesn't intend to base jump but has tons of friends that do, I get to live vicariously through the stories and experiences that you guys have. So even if you're not doing that stuff, enjoying watching the progression is just insane. It's wonderful. It really is.
Man, and just I think also being happy with where you are, you know what I mean? Like I said it at the beginning, like I always wanted to be more than just an instructor, and there's no judgment in that. Like there's so many amazing instructors out there that are totally happy with what they do, and they're super passionate in doing that, and they progress in other ways, right? They become better instructors, and they read books about teaching and all of that. And I think it's awesome. Like, if you found your place where you're happy, then enjoy that too. It's no, like you said, you know, enjoying watching other people is such a cool thing. If you ever come to a swoop competition or any competition, you just see what's happening there. You don't have to be, you know, you don't have to wish for being at the top with them. It's just cool to see other people be good, and whatever that is. Like, I think it's really important also to understand that there's so many people that do the same job basically for many years, but they're amazing at it, and I think it's awesome that they do it, and there's nothing wrong with that, you know.
No.
There's so many people that ask me, like, how can I get to this point and that point and all this, and it's like, man, like, also maybe it's worth seeing, like, am I happy where I am already, you know? Like,
sure.
Maybe there's a lot of energy can go into improving where I am now, rather than having to always look at what someone else is doing, you know.
Oh, and there's always room for improvement, even if it's something you've been doing for a long time. I mean, we said it earlier. I still, to this day, keep waiting for someone to tap me on the shoulder and go, hey, you're really not allowed to fly that plane. You know, you need to get out, because we found out you've been fucking faking it all these years. So, you know, it's a nice thing, you know. There's always something to learn, even if you've picked your one area to stick with.
Man, 100%. And I think that's, like, that always like kept me motivated. So I try to be better and try to find a better way, and kind of like, whether it's as an instructor or as let's say an athlete or whatever, you know, it's like, how can I improve on this? And that's just, I don't know. I think it's a ton of fun. And I think if the focus is on doing that, then you're going to have fun anyway.
Yeah, I agree. Well, one more time, please give me the Instagram so everybody can check in with you that way and follow up what comes next for Max.
My personal Instagram is @Max_Manow, and you'll find the Instagram of @RedBull Skydiving Team and @Momentum Flight. Those are the three important Instagram pages you have to keep looking at.
Max, have an amazing camp out in Bovec. Remember to tell Nitka he sucks at spotting airplanes. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and talk to me. I really, really enjoy hearing what's going on, and I'm going to enjoy seeing what you got coming next.
Thanks for having me, man. I enjoyed it a lot.
Take care, Max.
Yes, thank you.
And there you have it. Another episode of Lunatic Fringe Into the Void, brought to you as always by, and say it with me, fuck yeah, NZ Aerosports. Head to nzaerosports.com. By Pussfoot. That's right, head to pussfoot.com, the extreme sports collective, and check out everything they've got to offer. By summitparachutesystems.com. Jarrett Martin and the family cranking out amazing pilot rigs, as well as incredible rigging courses. And now joining the Lunatic team, it's the one and only Tony Suits. You know him, you love him. Head to tonysuit.com. Check out all the amazing standards, as well as the new incredible signature line they've got going on. And as for us, the Lunatic Fringe is now on YouTube. That's right, you're going to have the chance to put faces to the audio by heading to youtube.com and looking up the Lunatic Fringe podcast. It's easy. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, check out all the amazing videos from the previous guests that we've had, as well as new and upcoming interviews on video. As always, I am the fucking pilot. Head to thefuckingpilot.net or theprincesspilot.com. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time around.
Damn.